Hey, this is Jonah with Gray Area. Welcome to our series Spotlight, where our mission is to build a bigger and more united house music community by sharing new and exciting festivals, artists, and event brands with you. In this interview, you hear from Biscits, one of the hottest names coming out of the UK in the world of tech house. Please like, share, and subscribe for more interviews like this.
There it is.
There we are. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
All good, man. All good. I'm here in New York. We've been
Okay.
we've been having a time, the last few weeks, but maybe taking a weekend off or two for me.
What do you mean? Have you been out partying?
Yeah, well, we're having shows like starting on July 1st. We started having shows again.
Oh shit.
And I also work on the live event side in New York.
Yeah.
We started out, we had like Medusa and those big Chris Lake shows and
Oh
more
wow.
Nora and Pure. We had Elro here, just all that good stuff. So,
Oh man. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we've been back. Like I've had the last 3 weekends, I've had like 2 or 3 gigs each weekend. And the first one I went too hard and then had the worst hangover like for the whole week. And now I've been like pacing myself and trying to concentrate.
oh my God. No, I couldn't feel that more. I remember when we first came back, the first one I was at, I was just like, I was even like a little shaky, even just as a fan. I'm like, this doesn't feel real. And I can't even imagine, obviously, as a performer, like,
Yeah.
have you found like the crowds kind of have some extra energy right now or?
Yeah, definitely. And like I've been playing all sorts of tracks, like old ones, random ones that I just know that everyone hasn't heard for ages. And you can
Yeah.
get away with playing some real weird ones. And everyone's like, yeah. Yeah, man.
Wow. Has it been mostly like I know you just played that big, I think you were on the big show that like Oregon City and Sonny were doing. Has it mostly been stuff like that or have there been club shows as well?
Yes, it's been a mix. There's been like 3 or 4 club gigs, which were good, but it's like it's a little bit of a shock to the system, like because I've been at home, nothing's been going on for so long, and then you're suddenly like right in a crowded club, and like it's just so overwhelming. Like yeah, it's really good, but it's just like really sort of like, oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I actually haven't been to an indoor show yet because we've just been doing these big outdoor ones at the Brooklyn Mirage here in New York, and I think
Yeah,
I don't even know. We have an indoor show this weekend. I'm away, but we have
yeah.
our festival's Electric Zoo in New York, and it's coming
Oh,
up, and
nice.
we have all these after parties, and I'm just like, we'll see we'll see how that is. But you're coming stateside pretty soon, right? I think you're playing here in
Yeah.
Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm coming at the end of September, and I think for most of October, I'll be there all over the place. Like my calendar, I try and see what's coming up, but there's so many bits that are like, or not quite confirmed yet, or like this may
Yeah.
be here and all this. But yeah, it looks like all of October, I'm just going to be just all over the place in America. So I'm really excited, but also nervous, but like for a few reasons, right? It's so general DJ nerves, but then also my hangovers. I'm like, if I'm there for the whole of October, I need to really concentrate and like time it so that right at the end I can get really hungover.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint there, I guess.
That's it.
Is,
That's it.
is there a lot of anticipation amongst like your friends who are DJs kind of about making it over to the States now that it's reopened here?
Yeah, yeah, big time. It's like if you're in England, I think one of the main goals is to go to America. It's like it's just like a dream of everyone. It feels like you've made it. If you go to
Yeah.
America, everyone else is like, oh shit, he's legit, he's going. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. It's really hard to get a working visa. So it's like I was like for ages was like unsure if I'd be able to, but I actually have it now. So it's all good. We're good to go. So that's
That's
exciting.
great. No, I
Yeah,
think the
man.
amount of like NIE like exemption letters that I've signed in the last 2 months is just outrageous. Well, I'm just curious, obviously from the UK, and there's so many of you guys, whether
Mm,
it's, kind of the older legends or just people on the come up. I'm wondering if you could tell me or just a little bit about like what it's like kind of coming up in that scene that's, so talented and how it
mm.
helps you kind of choose his career path.
Yeah, it's interesting in England. I think it's quite a unique. I don't know, like electronic music's got quite a unique thing going on in England compared to everywhere else. It's like um, there's a lot of knowledge amongst like fans and stuff, and I think if you're getting into say house music, some of the crowds can be quite critical, and like you have to know what you're doing, know whose songs is whose, and know exactly what's going on. And if you play the wrong song, I feel like certain crowds would be like, right, well, this guy doesn't have a clue what he's doing. So it's quite like nerve-wracking in that sense. But then I think if you do succeed and do quite well in various clubs and scenes, people will have a lot of respect for you, and they'll be like, oh, he's legit, sort of thing. But I think for me, it's like I'm sort of on the fence of because I love just big bangers and big, stupid, over the top drops and all sorts of stuff, as well as quite like deep and quirky music. So I have to be really careful what I end up playing in certain clubs, which to a degree is why I'm looking forward to coming to America, because from the outside it looks like it's just like it's a little bit more like you can go harder, you can go heavy, and you can sort of the crowd wants a bit of an impact. Whereas in England, it's quite like, yeah, as I say, like a bit more. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to go to America, definitely.
No, I think it's growing here, but some of that more minimal stuff I think is super popular, where you are. And so, it requires a little more. You really got to find the right one for the people. Whereas, like, yeah, here
Yeah,
we like people like to go hard. That's all you
that's
can say about it.
that's it, man. And that's the same as that's what I found in Australia. When I went to Australia, they just loved it. Anything I did, just and then I was like, okay, I'll go harder. Go even bigger on the next track. And it's just like non-stop. They just loved anything. So it's just I like that. I like that Australian vibe. Yeah.
They bring it. It's funny because I was looking and I saw that you had it was like in 2018 you put up this flyer where you're like playing a show with Fisher. And
Yeah.
first of all, like he's got a full head of hair in the picture, which is that's its own thing.
Yeah.
But I was just curious because I remember seeing him in New York in that time frame too, and that's right when he was like first coming up, but he wasn't that big yet. Did
Yeah.
you have a sense of him as like this guy's gonna blow up, or like what was the vibe? How'd you guys meet?
Yeah. So that gig was an interesting one because that whole time, so it was quite early on for me, and that was clearly like the biggest thing I'd done. And so I'd just run out of money at that exact time, right? And everything was a bit on a downer. Like music was going okay, but it's like I was right on the edge, money wise and everything. And literally the day before, I'd got a job at the local co-op, like food shop, and it was like I was like, God, I give up. Like it was a right, almost giving up moment. And then my manager was like, Fisher's playing so and so, and we've got you a support slot, Jesus Christ. And I literally that day just quit my job and was just like, okay, I'll do one day and just be like, I'm out. I'm going to
Oh my god.
play with Fisher, right? Um, and also I hadn't DJ'd in a club for ages at that point because it was like, I wasn't quite there. So I was absolutely shitting, like I was really nervous. Um, and when I got to the club, Fisher was already on, and I was going to close and play after him. and I was just stood at the side watching him drop, losing it. And at the time, it was like just come out,
Yeah.
and it was like everyone's going absolutely nuts, and I was just there like, how am I possibly gonna play after that? Like, what the hell? But yeah, it was good. I didn't overly get to speak to him that much because he was just on some kind of mad rampage. It seemed like he was going from club to club, just like. But yeah, it was crazy. And obviously, yeah, I think I sort of was following him from because he released a few on Dirty Bird first, right? He did You're Kidding and Crowd Control on Dirty Bird, and then Losing It was his first self-release one. And so I've been following him from all of that and was just like, he's clearly going to be the biggest thing going, because it's also just his personality was just like, he
Yeah.
like when you're going through Beatport, say a lot of artists just have their name and it's just a picture of them and there's nothing, and it's just like there's nothing going on. But with Fisher, it was just like, oh, he's a maniac, like. Yeah, man. But I haven't like had much like speak to him every now and then online, but I've been really unlucky with shows and stuff where we haven't like had many meetings. And like when I go to America, I think there's like 2 or something like that. So I'm like really gonna try and get as drunk as I can with him.
Good
Yeah.
luck. Good luck. We're gonna need a report on how the tolerance is for him. I just like assume that he goes all night, but like who knows, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have a memory of like the first time that you played, whether it was, you know, just to your friends or an actual club show?
Yeah. So uh when I went to university, me and all my friends we were into electro at the start. So we were listening to Justice and Daft Punk and all the French stuff. Um, and we put on our own gig in like the student union building and on some tiny little mixer thing that was like controller. And it was just like in a complete shambles, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but like it was good. We had a good time and we got to play music really loud. But other than that, it's like, so I did a load of that kind of thing, literally playing to no one really. It was just our friends and like 10 people at tiny gigs. And then we all got into like dubstep when that was kind of kicking off, and trap stuff. And I did quite well under a different name. Well, quite well, just like did okay under a different name for that. And my first proper gig there, I got booked to play in Russia. Yeah,
Oh wow.
and like I was thinking about it now. I can't believe I did it, because I didn't. I was really bad at DJing and everything. Like I was like really early on, you know, and they booked me, and I just flew to Russia by myself and just hoped that they were there. Like when I got off, I hope someone is there. Like, and
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, it
God.
was so stressful, but it was like it ended up being an amazing gig, and it was really good. But yeah, looking back, what a maniac! Like, yeah, man. Uh,
That's funny. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's like you have that first experience where it's just playing for your friends,
mm,
and it's always kind of like, you know, what are we doing? What controller are we using? I mean, I think the technology piece of this has been so interesting. I don't know
mm.
if you've had the chance yet to use like the CDJ 3000s, but I'm just curious. So you're nodding yes. Like, what have you noticed is different about those? Because it feels like everybody is freaking out about like how awesome they are.
Yeah, well, they seem good. So basically, the first time I used them was at the gig this weekend with Sonny and Gorgon City. Um, and my manager phoned me the day before and was like, "Oh, it's 3000s, by the way." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Like, and now I was there googling tutorials on the CDJ 3000 like the day before, like just in case. I was like checking. I
Yeah.
was like, "Is it all the same? Is there anything different?" But mainly, it seemed like, I mean, it feels really good and everything, and the screen's massive, and it's all a lot clearer and easier to use. But it had a thing where you could see the waveform of the other CDJ above it. So
Yeah.
visually, you could see if you were lined up. But I was looking, I didn't overly find it that helpful. I was like getting it in, and I was like, it doesn't actually So I don't know if that's a benefit to me or not. It was sort of distracting, but I think for most people it would be a benefit.
Yeah. No, I hear that. It's fine. I had the opportunity to use them for the first time last weekend, and I remember
Oh yeah.
somebody took a picture of me, like, and I'm using the knob to like search through the tracks, and my friend's like, use the touchscreen, you dick. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking like that, because it's like
No.
you're so used to just doing it the other way. But it does, I mean,
Yeah.
it looks pretty clean. I was
Yeah.
just
So,
curious, going back a bit. I was listening to some of your more early music, and this is interesting now that you mentioned you came up a little more in like some of that bass stuff.
mm,
It felt like pre the track you put out, Back to Church, like before that, a lot of the tracks you were putting out seemed to be kind of a little more in the bass house world. They went a little harder. I'm curious,
yeah.
who was influencing you early on, and what kind of pushed you out of that sound into where you are now?
Yeah. So basically, it was after I finished with the trap stuff, after university and stuff. I had like 3 or 4 years where I just didn't make music at all and just worked in an office job and everything. I don't know if anyone like if anyone's read the other. I did some other interview where I said about the airplane crash I was in. Did I tell you about that? Do you know about
I read it, but can you
you
tell
read
us
it?
again, just for the people?
Yeah. So um, basically, yeah. So I've been working in this office for a few years, not doing music, and I just wasn't. It was pretty shit. But we went to Vegas on a stag do for my friend, and it was a great time. And then on the way home on the airplane, also hungover, so we were all a bit shaky. Anyway, as the plane was taking off, the engine exploded. I
Oh my
mean, I could
god.
laugh now. Yeah, I could laugh now, but at the time it was pretty bad. um,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, and it was full on like the whole thing was on fire. Like you can Google it, like Las Vegas plane fire or whatever. And it was literally this, we had to evacuate and all this. And so after that, I was a bit off for for a few weeks, and it was just like, right, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing because I hated the office and I loved music, but I just wasn't doing it. And I was like, right, come on, get back to music. And I think when I started doing it again, it was that kind of bass house sound was new. I think it was kind of like I remember hearing a Jaws song and then Tacky New Light or
Yeah.
the Night Bass
Yeah.
thing, AC Slater and all of these guys, and just being like, oh, that is some, like, I like the house vibe, and I obviously it's coming from dubsteppy, and I was like, oh yeah, this is amazing. But then so I was making that for a little bit and loving it, but then it was going out clubbing in Southampton where I'm from. It was way more tech house, UK house, like, and I went to a Salado night at the club in Southampton, Switch, and it was just seeing the crowd and everything and the way it reacted and everything to it. It's like I understood, because when just first listening to tech house, if you play it to someone, they would be like, "This is boring. This is like I don't get it. What's going on? Like it's dragging on and all that." But when you're actually there and you experience it, you understand. You're like, "Oh, I see what's
Yeah.
happening." So it's after that Salado night, I was like, "Right, let's try and do a bit deeper or a bit houseier or whatever." And basically around that time, I quit the job, moved in with my brother, I was sleeping on his sofa and was just like, right, because I had money saved up, I was like, I'm gonna try and do this, just making tech house and just try and just smash out as much as I can in this year whilst my money runs out. Um, and then yeah, just sort of, if I don't make it, I don't make it, and I'll get a job again. And if I can start earning money from it, then I'll just keep going. Um, and I was listening to a lot of BBC Radio One, like the Danny Howard and Pete Tong shows, and listen and hearing the structures and just everything about, right, what have they got going on. And then I just sort of implemented it, sat just in my brother's kitchen, just with my headphones on, just like endlessly, just like a madman. I feel like my brother was like, "What are you doing?" Sort of thing. He was really questioning it. He was like, "No," but yeah. So that, and then eventually it's just started to work, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think it's like to have that kind of exposure, especially with the radio, here we have some channels on Sirius XM and like they do
Yeah.
electronic, but it's not the same. It's not the same kind of culture. So you really have to be
Mm,
going out of your way for it. One of your first big supporters, as we've already talked about him, was Sonny. And
mm,
I'm just curious. I mean, he was playing out your music really early on, inviting you to shows. Obviously, you've released a ton with him and on the label.
mm.
Can you just tell us about that relationship and how you guys first met?
Yeah. So Sonny, so basically around, yeah, so that early time there where I was trying to get music signed to labels, I was emailing out all the music I was making. Um, I managed to get a manager because one of the labels, Eaton Messi, the guy who used to run it, basically was like, "Hey, I'm starting to manage people. What's your situation?" And so I went with him, and then he knew a bit more about what labels were coming up and who's who and all this. And he sent it to Sonny because he knew he was starting up Solotoko, and was like, "Oh, that might be a good thing to try," and because no one knew who we were and they were new, so it might like be able to skip in, sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, so Sonny, we sent him Do It Like This, um, and a few others, and he like road tested it, and then um, I saw a video of him playing it and was like, "Oh my god, he's playing it, Jesus Christ," sort of thing. And then we got an email saying, "Yeah, yeah, let's do it. This one's banging," sort of thing. And because it was a bit full on, like it did have a big drop, Do It Like This, and it was it's quite heavy tech house song. I think a lot of the other UK labels and the cool labels I was messaging were like, "It's too much," whereas Sunny was just like, "It works in a crowd, it works anywhere, like let's release it." It was as simple as that, which was really sick and helped me a lot because then a few of my other ones have been similar, and he's always like, "Yeah, if it works, it works. Like we don't have to be deep and all this." So he sort of took a risk in the tech house sense on it. Um, so yeah, and then ever since he's just been like supporting everything I do and then getting me on all the shows. Like the majority of big shows I've played have just been supporting him. So yeah, like he's been really great. Like I owe Sonny a lot, I think. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps. You guys have the same agent. That
Mm,
can't hurt.
mm,
I'm
yeah.
curious, just off that, if you had to pick, so now that you've gotten to play a lot of these different stages, do you have a preference between kind of the festival gig, the big venue gig like the one you just did, or more of the intimate club?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the vibe. I feel like I've had some really good club gigs where it's been like, quite enclosed, dark club, loads of people, real sweaty. And I've really loved the mix, like, lost it in the mix and played loads of random tunes that I wouldn't normally play. And like you can get really stuck into that kind of environment. But then at the same time, when you're at a big festival and there's just loads of people and you get to play like a big, like, anthem,
Yeah.
it's just I just don't think you can really beat that, like in life. I just don't think there's anything better than that. Like I think I play this sort of disco remix of Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. I play it if I'm ever playing a festival, I do it. And you can play it anywhere in the world. Everyone just shouts it. Every single person will just shout it back at you. And it's just like that. That's it. That's the best thing. Yeah.
Man, oh, that's what you live for, those moments. I mean,
Mm,
I like to ask that question to pretty much everybody because I just think like the responses are interesting, and I
mm,
generally, people will say something like that. There are people who are like, I hate festivals, I don't like being that far away, but you know just seeing people react in a way, it's hard. Not everyone is going to be able to go and play a headline show for 50,000 people, but you go to a
Yeah.
festival, you get that opportunity. I was curious, you just posted about this. You just signed a publishing deal with Ultra, Ultra Music, and
Yeah.
had a bug in my face. First of all, congratulations on that. But
Thanks.
I was just curious, I think the whole label side for people that are kind of casually following the industry can be really confusing. And I'm wondering if you can just tell us, like, what does it even mean to sign a publishing deal? And then also just for you in your career, like, what does that mean for you to have a big label like that, want you under their wing?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a sort of long time coming with Ultra. And I was confused, like getting into music. I was so confused. They're like, oh, there's publishing, there's master rights, and there's all this stuff. And I was like, I have no idea what it is. But luckily, my management, hopefully, know. But yeah, so basically, publishing is one side of earnings on your music. So you've got like the physical sales, like if someone downloads your track, like physically buys it on Beatport or iTunes or whatever, so they can have it on their computer. And then there's the other side, which is publishing, is streams, YouTube, radio play, TV, and adverts. And basically, when you sign a publishing deal, they front you an amount of money that they think you're worth, and then they try and earn it back over the course of that publishing deal, basically, to put it really boring. But so to have them be like, hey, look, we think you're going to earn this amount of money, let's sign a deal, was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, okay, cool. But then, so that's one aspect, which is cool. And then at the other side of it is they really work behind the scenes at Ultra, with singers, songwriters, TV advertisers, all of these companies and stuff. Like they have a massive network of people, and they'll hook you up in the best way they can, so that moving forward you can improve your streams and your radio plays and your TV adverts. So like already they've got me booked in the studio with like 5 days straight with a new singer each day, so that I can like try and work on new material with all these people. So that in itself is really cool. And just to have Ultra, one of these big established labels, be like, we believe that you are legit, is like, oh
Yeah.
Christ, I think I'm legit. Sort of, it just like feels good to hear, because like when you go in there and it all across one wall was just Steve Aoki, like golden records and platinum records and all this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Steve Aoki, like cool. But yeah, so I think it's like a big step. It's quite a serious step, because so it's like I'm a bedroom producer, right? I sit here in this bedroom and just try and make music. And to go from that to like, okay, you're actually in with Ultra, and there's some stuff going on, and they're backing you and pushing you places and all that, I think is like, yeah, it's a huge step. And it was a real good moment, definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think some of this momentum, obviously it's been building for a while, and this is, what you're working towards, just looking through kind of the year you had in 2020, especially a year that I thought it was an opportunity, a weird opportunity where like if you stood out, you really stood out, because there was no live show, so it's all on the music side. And you had big releases with like Blackbook and Higher Ground. It feels like now more than ever, when you're in tech house, like you have to work twice as hard, because there are just so many people coming out of nowhere. I mean, I don't think anybody knew who John Summit was like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And, now he's everywhere. And it's like, there's 10 examples of that, as somebody who had a really big year last year and, is signing these deals. How do you think, you tried to stand out kind of amongst the crowd? And then just like, what do you think is required for anyone that's trying to make it right now?
Yeah, so you're right. Like the COVID year or whatever was, so I know a lot of artists were worried about releasing because they think, oh, clubs aren't open. What's the point? Like we're not touring. Why should we put music out? But for me, it was like, firstly, all I was doing was making music. So I'm sat there with
Yeah.
endless tracks piling up, getting all itchy, like, oh, we need to release them, like, because I want people to hear it. And then at the same time, I think people are still going to have their own little house parties. They're still going to be listening. They're still going to be whatever. And maybe certain sounds within tech house suited that more. So if you have more of a vocal track or more of a, you know, unique, memorable track, people are gonna, it's gonna work in that environment. Whereas when clubs are rolling and everything's fine, you can probably release a lot more sort of rolling tech house, which is just for a club environment. But so yeah, I was loving it. I was like every day I was just waking up and just absolutely just going for it with the music. But yeah, I think you have to, well, me personally, it felt like I have to release loads, basically. Like, and to keep that consistency going, just, you know, whether it's once every 2 or 3 months, you have to release a song or an EP or something. Because if you die down, the people, you're not in people's faces, or you have to come up with some other way of reminding people that you exist. Like if you're Fisher and you're really charismatic, you can do some other funny video or something. But if you're just doing music and you're relatively normal, you have to be really consistent, which I never used to be before before this new wave of music that I'm doing in the last few years. I would make like one track every 2 or 3 months and then question like, oh, why am I not? Why is it not working? Like, what's the problem? Whereas now it's literally like so part of my routine to wake up, start an idea, check yesterday's ideas, you know, where are we at, what's going on? And I think that's how you have to be. And when you look at John Summit, he was doing, he has been going for a little bit. Like I do remember him a few years ago doing stuff, and then he had Deep End, and it's like, whoa, okay, he's right up there. But then if he didn't follow up, then it would have just been that, and then everyone would forget. So the fact that he's then gone, you know, these follow-up tracks and remixes with his sound, so he's cementing his sound, then by this point he's just like, you release what you want and people are going to be like, it's John Summit, yeah, let's go, sort of thing. So I think that is the case, and you see it with other ones as well. Who was it? Deeper Purpose, absolutely killing it. Love everything he does, and like, again, he had that big one on Catch and Release, and then he followed up with a few, and then there's Everybody's Free, which went to #1 as well. So he again is being consistent, and like, hopefully now gigs are coming back, he's going to be everywhere, because I didn't see him on many lineups, but like, that's the sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, I think like a lot of people who stayed producing during the shutdown, you know, maybe the style changed a bit. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I wanted to ask about it. You know, I felt like listening to some of your, obviously not all of it, but some of your more recent stuff, you know, more vocals, a little more melody, a little more upbeat. Do you think that was just a function of kind of not being in the clubs, or as you mentioned, you know, now that you're with Ultra, like they're setting you up with vocalists that maybe you didn't have before? Is it kind of everything? Like,
yeah, I would just say it was the whole thing, because where I was listening to music was then like in the car, or, you know, just randomly, and it's like, and listening to the radio more and stuff like that, there just was more vocals, and that was the music that was getting me. So then, yeah, but I would be searching for like vocal sample packs, because I didn't know any singers or whatever, and was just be looking. So a few of those tracks I did were just sample pack vocals. I mean, it still worked really well. I'm really happy with them, but it's like, now I think Ultra can listen to those and be like, right, okay, we see what he's going for. Let's get him a really legit vocalist and get something more going. Because I think that was part of why they probably went for the deal, was because I showcased that in that year. and then they were like, oh, he can do vocals as well, he can do more melodic, like, because otherwise if you're just a, you know, one-dimensional tech house, it's only so far realistically you could push that. But yeah.
That's great. I mean, it does feel like, you know, in order to take that next step in this world, that's what you have to do. I mean, obviously we've seen Sonny do it, and Dom Dalla does it, and, you know, even Chris Lake. Like, for you kind of going forward, you know, obviously you're really coming up right now, and, you know, the future is very bright. Do you see yourself, you know, wanting to start your own label down the line? And just from a touring perspective, something that I always like to ask is, you know, if you had the opportunity to kind of have the stage look like whatever you wanted it to, what would that look like?
Yeah. Wow. That's okay. So I definitely want to do my own label, and me and my management have been like planning it for a little bit actually. But it's such a big thing because I want to, if I was to do it, I want to do it right, and I want to do it, you know, in a successful way, because I think it's quite easy to be like, yeah, start a label, and then you just sort of fizzle out, and it's not, you know. But so and I was talking to a few other producers and stuff online, ones that I would like to release, sort of setting the groundwork out. But yeah, I think because of the pandemic and everything, and then coming back to gigs, it's going to have to be like a year down the line or something now, or maybe even slightly further, because I don't know, I feel like I need to do some touring, do some stuff before, you know, trying to do the label. But yeah, and then if I was to do my own tour and have like support acts and stuff, well, I always think a tour in the UK, say, with me, Martin Ikin, and Deeper Purpose, because there's a big tech house names who currently across England I don't see having that many shows. But there's definitely an audience for that kind of sound, I feel like. So I'd love to do like a UK tour with those guys. And then there's some up and coming American guys called Local Singles. I don't know if you know them.
No, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, so they're like on the come up, and I just really like their Instagram's really funny, and they just seem like good guys. Do you know, I'm like, I want to go to a party with those guys. So I'd love to do a tour of them. And then in Brazil, I work a lot with Mita, who's this Brazilian duo, who again is like on a come up, and they're just like the nicest guys in the world, and they love music. And whenever I've been to Brazil, I like hang out with them. And so yeah, I'd love to do something in South America as well with those guys. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. As you say, there's so many good tech house artists. It's like really hard to be like, yeah, I'll go for him and him. But yeah, I like West End. He's like smashing it right now. He's on that like John Summit style kind of rise. Yeah, and I found it funny actually. I was messaging him the other day, and we were discussing. We were like, he said to me, he's like, "Oh, have you ever had a Beatport #1?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, "Have you?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "You're gonna get it with this track." The pink one, the remix. Well, what is it?
I know what you're talking about. It just came out.
Yeah. And I was like, it's going. It's at #2. It's on. And then the next day, John Summit released his track, and it was just like, no, forget it.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's like, what are you supposed to do? West End's great. He's a local New Yorker, actually. Oh, you guys definitely really? we got to get the collab going between the two of you. That would be awesome.
Yeah, big time. I'm up for that.
Awesome. Well, listen, that's all I got, but I just want to say thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it, and really excited to have you in New York on Halloween. That show is going to be massive, so we'll have to grab a beer then and have a fucking time.
Sick. I can't wait. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I'm
of
so
course.
pumped.
It's going to be great. It's like this sick warehouse that doesn't it doesn't exist that often during the year. They only put
Right,
it
I
up for
see.
like a couple months, so it's like a very special room, and
Oh wow,
that's going to be proper. So we'll look forward to
sick.
that, man. And thank
Yeah, I
you
can't
again for
wait,
coming
man.
in.
Yeah, no worries. All right,
Awesome.
sick.
You have a good one.
Cheers. Bye.